Clutch Gene. The Clutch Gene.
Welcome to the Clutch Gene, and today we're going to be talking about 5 NBA players that played in the wrong era. Let's get into it. Tim Thomas was a combo forward at 6'10", drafted in the first round with the 7th pick. He was not a traditional power forward at the time. He had the height and strength, but shot tremendously as a big man. Thomas played 10 years in the NBA, making only an all-rookie team, but he did have some of his most memorable moments on the Knicks and Bucks. Thomas played from 1997 to 2010, where big men were in the paint and with teams relying on mainly the pick and roll. He was a knockdown shooter, averaging 41.4% from deep in 2005 to 2006 and 37% for his career. Ironically, when he retired in 2010, the league average three-point attempts per game was 18, and 8 years later in 2018, that number doubled. Personally, I think if Thomas played today, he would have had an increased amount of touches and more freedom to create his own shot, knowing his proficiency from 3. Thomas is just one of many stretch bigs that played in the wrong era, such as Robert Horry and Brad Miller. Alex the Blade English, an NBA Hall of Famer that played in the wrong time in my opinion. The fact that he made the Hall of Fame though, means he did pretty well for himself in the 80s. English was an 8-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, and 82-83 scoring champ. He was a 6'7" beast that debatably had the best mid-range in the game during his prime. Drafted in the second round in 1976 by the Bucks, English was most known for his days in Denver, with his best scoring year being 29.8 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 4 assists, and 1 steal. English was the definition of a walking bucket. The main reason I think English played in the wrong era was because he was such a ball-dominant, prominent scorer that if he played in today's league, he would easily average 30 points per game. Now, averaging 30 points per game in today's league is an amazing feat, but English didn't even do this with a 3-point shot in his game. In the 80s, the 3-point shot was somewhat of a taboo, with teams and coaches opting for the safer, more efficient mid-range game, with only a couple individuals encouraged to shoot the 3. I believe he should be playing in the era right now, but with the combination of his athleticism and scoring, English could have played in any era and still thrive. DeMar DeRozan, a 90s NBA player stuck in the 2010s and 2020s. The first thing you think about when you hear DeMar DeRozan's name is his mid-range game. He's a maestro that excels at playing inside the arc with a number of fadeaways and jumpers. He was drafted with the 9th pick to the Toronto Raptors in 2009 and came out of college with amazing athleticism but an inconsistent jumper. He quickly became the first option on offense after the departure of Bosh, with his best year in 2016 to 2017. 27 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists, and 1.7 3-point attempts per game. Unfortunately for him, by the time he was getting the hang of being an all-star, the league average for 3-point attempts per game jumped. Like absolutely skyrocketed. By the time DeMar entered the league, the average for 3-point attempts per game was 18. And by the time he was an all-star, the average jumped to 27 3-point attempts per game. Teams started to rely heavily on the 3, and you can see this when comparing his stats literally the next year after. By 2017 and 2018, he averaged 23 points per game, 3.9 rebounds per game, 5.2 assists per game, and 3.6 3-point attempts per game. As you can see, in 2017, his average 3-point attempts per game doubled. His 3-point percentage did increase with the increased amount of 3s, but severely fell in 2018 to 2019, but is slowly back on the rise. If DeMar traveled back to the 90s, man, I could easily see him lead a team to compete for the trophy, and with a combination of mid-range moves and athleticism, he would have been a major problem back then. Lamar Odom, unfortunately most known for being a meme, drafted at the 4th pick in 1999 to the Los Angeles Clippers, this high-energy small forward was a stereotypical point forward that today everyone would want. He ended his NBA tenure with a pretty good resume, 2-time NBA champion, all-rookie team, and a 2010 to 2011 Sixth Man of the Year. When he entered the NBA, the New York native was forced to play the traditional small forward position due to his height. At 6'10", LO was expected to play the forward even with his thin frame, but that did not mean he was pushed around in the paint. Lamar averaged 9 to 10 rebounds per game during his tenure with the Lakers, but his better years were early on the Clippers, averaging 17.2 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and 5.2 assists per game in 2000. He was your average stat sheet stuffer and a must-have on your fantasy team. In his later years when he was winning championships with the Lakers, Odom was debatably the best person to put beside Kobe. Odom did not have to force his way to get buckets and mainly played the role of the facilitator on the team. Lamar would fit so well in today's positionless league. He would be able to offensively and defensively play 1 through 5. He had the dribble moves of a guard and the body of a power forward, and I believe in today's league, many teams will give him the freedom to play where he could fully thrive as a player. Last but certainly not least, Dennis Rodman, the Hall of Famer that made a living off of rebounding, defending, and hustling. This guy made rebounding look fun.
Boom, click and go back this way. Boom, here, click and go that way. Boom, that way. Click here and go like this.
At 6'7", drafted in the second round with his 27th pick overall in 1986 to the Pistons, Rodman was an undersized power forward that would be listed as small forward early on in his career. Rodman was always praised for his energy on the court, but in 1991 he averaged 18.7 rebounds per game, which is insane. This is accompanied with a tremendous resume. The Hall of Famer was a 5-time NBA champion, 2-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Star, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 7-time rebounding champ, and 8-time All-Defensive. Rodman was a defensive monster. His hustle, strength, and tenacity allowed him to keep up with guards and hold his own against bigs in the paint. In today's league, Rodman would strap every single player on the court, being able to switch on every pick and roll. Definitely out of the 5 players I mentioned today, I think Rodman could have played in any era he wanted to, as long as he had the right personnel to keep up with him. If you got this far, thank you for listening, and you can subscribe or do whatever you want and share the video and do all that, but thank you for listening to the video, and until next time, we out.